Welcome back to episode 8 of With a Grain of Salt. Today, we are going to start a wonderful journey that I kind of want to get into. Today, we're going to be discussing, or mostly the start of a discussion of mostly the timeline of murderers, serial killers, historical killers kind of thing. So, I'm definitely interested to get that started and going. Don't forget to check out the Discord down below so you can get live notifications on when we go live for these recordings. Don't forget to also check out twitch.tv/saltysaltine13 to also, get these when they come out live. So, yeah. Anything else, Aiden?
No, you covered it all. That was pretty peak, Aiden.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Thank you all for the massive amount of support that we've been getting so far. And,
Yes, we are very appreciative.
Yeah, today we are going to be starting with, of course, one of the greatest. I don't want to say greatest because it was a terrible thing he did.
Yeah,
But
definitely not the greatest murder. One of the most known murderers.
one of the first
Uh,
known and first notorious,
Notorious?
some word like that, most put out there murderer. Um,
Hmm.
Jack the Ripper. So,
Yeah,
yeah, this will be
I'm sure
fun.
you've heard of him.
Oh yeah, man's a great name, Jack the Ripper. Wasn't there something like not too long ago saying like they finally decoded his
They,
final message,
oh, no, they found out who it was.
allegedly.
Allegedly, because it's been so long. But they, fingerprinted one of the dresses of, his last victims.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was in someone's, personal collection, and they found his fingerprints. And, the lady that was murdered, he was one of the suspects that was on the suspect line,
Mm-hmm.
but they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I believe he was a barber from Poland.
Oh yeah, because there were like he was one of the yeah, one of the people they
Hmm.
thought he was. Um,
He was a suspect of being Jack the Ripper, but they
yeah, he
could
was a
never tie him
suspect.
to it.
Yeah, but alrighty, let's get into it. London, autumn 1888. In the narrow alleys and back streets of the East End, one of history's most chilling, unknown criminals stalked the night. The name he adopted, Jack the Ripper, who would echo for over a century, sparking fear, fascination, and countless theories. Tonight, we journey into the story of the Ripper, the murders, the victims, the witnesses, the investigation, and the mystery that still remains to this day. The district of Whitechapel in London's East End was, at the time, one of the most poorest, most crowded neighborhoods of the British capital. As one historian puts it, the murders exposed the sordid underbelly of Victorian society and a quarter right on the doorstep of the City of London. Conditions were grim: overcrowded lodgings, casual labor, prostitution, and an ever-present fog of poverty and desperation. Into the setting stepped a killer whose crimes would knock even hardened Londoners.
Well, there were many murders in Whitechapel between 1888 and 1891. Most experts recognize a set of five victims as the canonical five of Jack the Ripper. Those five are Marianne Nichols, found August 31st, 1888. Annie Chapman, found September 8th, 1888. Elizabeth Stride, found September 30th, 1888. Then we have Catherine Kate Eddowes, found the same night on the 30th of September 30th, 1888. And Mary Jane Kelly, found November 9th, 1888. What binds these murders together? The time frame, a roughly 3 month period, the location, in and around Whitechapel, and a distinct pattern of brutality and mutilation. Mary Ann Nichols was 43. She'd been a wife and a mother of five. She grew up in a working class family, married a printer named William Nichols, and lived what might have been a modest, steady life. But the marriage fell apart, partly due to her husband's infidelity and possibly her own drinking problem. Separated and desolate,
Yep.
destitute,
Yeah, something
is
like
that,
that.
Polly drifted through workhouses and lodging houses. On the night of August 31st, 1888, she was turned away from her lodging because she didn't have fourpence for a bed. Uh, Witness Emily Holland said Polly told her, "I'll soon get my DOS money. See you later." She was last seen walking toward Whitechapel Road, likely looking for work to pay for that bed. Hours later, her body was found in Buck's Row. Her throat had been cut twice, and her abdomen mutilated. It was the beginning of a nightmare.
But yeah, right
Motherfucker
here
was.
is her morgue picture. As you can see, he kind of went for, as like up here in the top, kind of see he went for like the top of the head immediately. You can see he kicked in like probably a few teeth, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was unfortunately the first one. Just trying to find money for.
She just wanted a bed.
She just wanted a bed. Annie Chapman was 47, known around Spitnal Fields as Dark Annie. Once she had stability too, married to a coachman employed by a wealthy family living in Windsor. But by 1884, alcoholism and illness had taken their toll. Her husband left her a small allowance, but after he died of alcoholism, she had nothing. Annie began selling flowers and crochet work on the street, sometimes turning to sex work when she couldn't earn enough. A friend described her as a quiet, inoffensive, and industrious when she was sober. It's
I
only,
don't.
it's
It's
only,
not that.
it's only gonna get worse.
He, seem, he seems to have a theme with older women.
It's mostly the sex workers. He has a theme with the sex workers.
That's what I meant. He's like taking out older sex workers now.
Well, I mean, that's when everyone decided to start going into sex work when they realized that they weren't gonna, have kids and stuff. It usually was older people. On the morning of September 8th, she was seen talking to a man outside 29 Halbury Street around 5:30 a.m. An hour later, her body was found in the backyard, throat cut, abdomen mutilated, and her uterus removed. The brutality shocked police surgeons. Dr. George Phillips testified that the killer showed some anatomical knowledge. Holy shit, words. The Ripper had escalated. I'll let you read, Elizabeth.
Man, he done diddly did cut him and gutted him.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really know much about Jack the Ripper, other than like he was a murderer in London in the 1800s.
It's mostly he just I don't really know. He doesn't really ever get into it, but like he just has a grudge against sex workers, and like as you can tell, he goes for like their abdomen and like their uteruses and stuff like that. So then like I don't even know if like somehow they made it out of there, they wouldn't have kids because for some reason he found the way that they were doing things, like the sex
Yeah.
workers, he found that wrong, and I don't know, decided to kill him for some reason.
Uh, Elizabeth Long Liz Stride was 44, born in Sweden. She had moved to London to work as a domestic servant when she married a ship carpenter named John Stride, and together they ran a coffee shop for sailors. But their marriage collapsed under financial strain, and Liz drifted into lodging houses and occasional prostitution to survive. Unlike the others, her murder was less mutilated, suggesting the killer may have been interrupted. Witness Israel Schwartz told police, sorry if I butchered that,
You good?
uh, he saw a man assaulting a woman near Duty Fields Yard just before 1 a.m. On September 30th, 1888, minutes later, Liz's body was found, throat slashed, but no further injuries. It seemed the Ripper's spree had been cut short for the moment.
But yeah, they say that the guy that called it in was the interruption for Jack the Ripper, but once again, doesn't know. We don't know. You know, I mean, it seems obvious, but what do we know? Catherine K. Eddowes was 46, a lively, witty woman, once known for her singing voice. She had lived with a man named Thomas Conaway for over 20 years and had 3 children. After separating from him, she lived with John Kelly in Spitalfield Lodging, in a Spitalfields lodging house. On the day of her death, September 29th, 1888, she was arrested for drunkenness in Aldgate. Released at 12:55 a.m., she told the officer on duty, "Good night, you old cock." Those were her last recorded words. 15 minutes later, her body was found in Mitry Square, throat cut, face mutilated, part of her ear sliced off. Her kidney and uterus have been removed with surgical precision. Yeah, goddamn. Literally not even 15 minutes later. Like and it was
Bro was
found.
spawn
Well, no,
camping.
here's the best part. It was found 15 minutes later. That means
That means she walked out,
that man had to
walked
be
around the
around the
block.
corner. Yeah, he had to be around the corner. He was
Yeah, like
literally stalking his prey. I want to fair warn viewers now, if you're making it to this point, um, images are gonna get a little graphical. So there is your warning. A section of her blood-stained apron was later discovered in Golston Street next to graffiti that read, the Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Whether connected to the killer remains debated, but it deepened public panic and anti-Semitic fears.
Mary Jane Kelly was just 25, the youngest of the victims, and perhaps the most mysterious. She was said to be Irish, possibly Welsh, described as attractive, cheerful, and fluent in both English and Welsh. She had once lived in better conditions, even reportedly spent time in Paris as a model. But by 1888, Mary Jane was living in a small single-room lodge at 13 Miller's Court. She'd been living with a man named Joseph Barnett, a fish porter, until they quarreled over her taking in other women as lodgers. At 2 a.m. on November 9th, neighbors heard a faint cry, "Oh, murder!" But such cries were common in Whitechapel, and no one investigated. When police forced open her door that morning, they found a scene so horrific that Inspector Aberline reported turned pale. Her body had been mutilated beyond recognition. Dr. Thomas Bond's autopsy described the mutilations as more extensive than in any of the other previous cases. The whole surface of the abdomen and thighs were removed. Oh. This was the Ripper's last known killing.
As you can see, this is the this is I don't want to say this is a picture. I think it is a picture. I'm not sure, but no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's a really realistic I want to say
Drawing.
wax doll. No, this is like in a tourist museum, but it is basically how they found the body. And
Jesus.
as you can see, her thigh was ripped open. Right here is literally her crotch area. So you can see it was split open.
Where do we look, Quatch?
There's her bone. You can't even like tell her face. Arm right here. Arm. Absolutely mutilated. Despite the obscurity of the killer, some witnesses claim to have seen the victims in company with suspicious men shortly before their deaths. but reliability, contradictory statements, and poor conditions complicate matters. One example, Israel Schwartz, a Hungarian Jew who turned into Berner Street at around 12:45 a.m. on the night of on September 30th, 1888, and observed a man talking to a woman at a gateway of Dutfield's yard, believed to have been Elizabeth Stride. He later claimed this would have been the murderer and the victim. Other key witnesses, Joseph Lawton, a cigarette salesman born in Poland, who is believed to have seen Catherine Eddowes with a man minutes before her body was discovered. He later provided a fairly detailed description, and yet the police files, the interviews, and the statements were jumbled, sometimes translated for non-English speakers, and not always pursued fully. In his memoirs, the head of the CID, Robert Anderson, stated that one witness was the only person who could have had a good view of the murderer. So the question remains, did the police ever get a credible description? They got fragments. For instance, the so-called leather apron scare, anti-Semitic rumors, and conflicting suspect descriptions all muddied the waters. So if you don't know, the leather apron scare was kind of a big scare. It was, like after one of the witnesses saw, someone with a leather apron talking to a woman, and so that kind of made everyone suspicious of literally anyone that wore a leather apron. So like shoemakers, they actually lost a lot of business during the time because of how many people were scared of leather aprons. And yeah, it really was kind of an epidemic, if you will, in its own way.
The police investigation was challenged from the start. Victims were from the poorest classes, the killer struck at night in poorly lit alleyways, and the resources of the police were stretched thin. Frederick George Aberline, a detective drafted back into the district, took charge of much of the groundwork. He had patrolled East End territory for years and knew the criminal elements. Yet the press played a major role.
Sensationalism.
Yeah. Sensationalism and anti-Semitic rumor, the leather apron myth, false leads, and sensational letters, one of which introduced the name Jack the Ripper, all combined to create a chaotic atmosphere. The infamous letter, the Dear Boss letter, arrived late September 1888, taunting the police and signing off Jack the Ripper. Many believe it was a hoax, but it popularized the killer's moniker. Overall, the police never captured the killer, and the case was never conclusively solved, an outcome that has fulfilled generations of amateur. Hold on, let me quit yawning. Sorry. An outcome that has fulfilled generations of amateur ripperologists.
And the Dear Boss letter that they're talking about, it was like, it wasn't his first memoir that he released, but it was definitely like one of the early ones. And here, I'll read it right here. Yeah, this is actually, when he gave himself the name Jack the Ripper. Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me real fits. I'm down on horrors. I am down on horrors, and I have shan't quitting ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work, the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Haha. Literally typed out haha. Or wrote out haha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers. Just for a jolly, wouldn't you know? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get any chance. Good luck, yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They saw I'm a doctor now. Haha. But, yeah. So, he's, really just making fun of him, right? Because the police are saying, like, oh, well, we have suspects, so, he's like, keep on hearing the police have caught me, but that just won't do it because obviously they haven't. Um, he's laughing about all the things that are going on around the world, like the leather apron. He thought that was kind of funny. And just kind of telling them how he enjoyed what he was doing. And then another one that I found kind of interesting is when he said, "The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send them to police." That that was so then they know that this letter was actually from him, like from the actual
Mm-hmm.
Ripper, because at the time there were starting to have like a fake like mail coming in with people saying that they were Jack the Ripper, just for the popularity or the,
Yeah.
the idolization, I guess. And yeah, so it was really interesting, especially when the next murder, she had her ears gone and then it was sent to the police. But they tried. Here, I might be able to pull up a picture. They tried doing handwriting tests on everyone, but they weren't able to because it was a lot of back and forth. It was very hard to identify it. But yeah, as you can see, his all of his letters, they had like this weird like scribble to it. I mean, it was legible cursive. This is people like actually writing it out. But like, oh man, like this right here, this is what you would expect to see. Yeah, like right here. This is kind of like what he would get. This is the red that he was talking about. He still had on his hands that got onto the
People.
onto the paper, yeah. Over the years, countless suspects have been proposed: doctors, butchers, barbers, and even royalty in conspiracy theories. Notice how a good chunk of them usually wear leather aprons in their job.
Yeah. And had access to very sharp knives, and it wouldn't be weird for them to have a very sharp knife.
Mm-hmm. And then doctors too, for those like the anatomical surgery that he was doing on them. That, like the one doctor said.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence remains circumstantial and very old. One modern claim, historian Russell Edwards claims a 100% DNA match linking suspect Aaron Kozeminski, a Polish immigrant barber, to one of the victims via a shawl, but that claim has not been peer reviewed and many experts remain skeptical. The official case files are incomplete, partially lost in a World War II bombing. In the end, we remain left with more questions than answers. Who exactly was Jack the Ripper? Did he kill more the canonical Did he kill more than just the canonical five? Why did the mutilations escalate? Was the anatomy knowledge genuine or luck?
The story of Jack the Ripper continues to fascinate not just because of the gruesome murders, but because of what they revealed about Victorian society: poverty, gender, class, fear, uh, and the sensational press and failures of policing. As one site puts it, the killer managed to expose the appalling social conditions that had been allowed to develop unchecked. For viewers today, the case offers a chilling lesson. Even in plain sight, a predator can hide among the most vulnerable. to this scene, it also reminds us of the limits of
Forensic.
forensic science in its time, and the enduring power of unsolved mystery.
Over 130 years later, Jack the Ripper remains a name, a myth, a chilling possibility, the unknown man behind the murderers. Many of the physical details have long been lost, yet the story remains vivid, told and retold. Perhaps one day we'll finally know his identity. Until then, his legend endures in the dark corners of London's history. If you'd enjoyed this deep dive, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifs, and remember, go ahead, Aiden.
Take it all with a grain of salt.
And I think we can call it there. Wrap it
Peace
up,
out, chat.
and peace out.